Have you ever stopped to listen, not just to the world around you, but to yourself? Have you ever noticed the constant noise in your mind, the endless chatter that fills every moment of your day? In our modern world, silence is rare. We speak, we share, we argue, and we explain. But in the depth of silence lies a profound strength, one that can transform lives. Today, we will embark on a journey into the power of silence through the story of a disciple who learned this lesson the hard way. A lesson that took him from arrogance to humility, from noise to stillness, and from confusion to wisdom. Let us begin. In a quiet village, nestled among the trees, stood a great hermitage. This place was home to Gautam Buddha, a wise and respected monk, and his disciples. Among them was one who was different, not because of his wisdom, but because of his words. This disciple had a habit of talking, a lot. Wherever he went, he carried stories from one house to another, from one person to another. He loved gossip, he loved sharing, and most of all, he loved proving that he was superior to others. "I am from a rich family," he often boasted. "I could have lived in luxury, but I chose this path because I seek the ultimate truth." He believed his sacrifice was greater than anyone else's. He believed he was different. One day, the Buddhist monk gathered all the disciples and said, "For the next month, each of you must take a resolution, something to strengthen your inner power." Each disciple chose a resolution suited to their abilities. Some chose fasting, some chose extended meditation. But the talkative disciple, wanting to stand out, approached the monk and said, "I do not want a small resolution. I want something great, something that matches my abilities." The monk smiled and said, "Are you sure you can fulfill it?" "Of course," the disciple said with pride. "Tell me, what should I do?" The monk replied, "For 1 month, remain silent. Not a single word." The disciple laughed. "Is that all? Silence is easy." "Then do it," the monk said. With determination, the disciple turned and left, believing that his challenge would be effortless. But silence, as he was about to learn, is not as simple as it seems. The first day passed easily. The disciple kept to himself, feeling a sense of accomplishment. But on the second day, a weight began to press on his chest. By the third day, he felt restless. By the fourth day, his mind was screaming. He could hear his fellow disciples talking, laughing, debating. He wanted to join them, to share his opinions, to correct them, to prove himself. But he could not. His own silence became a prison. His mind grew loud. Thoughts swirled in endless conversations. Arguments, justifications, self-praise. His voice was gone, but his mind was shouting louder than ever. By the end of the first week, he fell ill. His head ached, his body weakened, his appetite disappeared. Desperate, he wrote to the monk, "I cannot breathe without speaking. I feel like I am losing my mind. Should I break my resolution?" The monk smiled and replied, "Resolutions are easy to break. Many have already failed. But tell me, if you cannot handle this small test, how will you handle the trials of life?" These words struck deep. The disciple returned to his hut. He locked himself away, stepping out only for necessities. Days passed. He struggled. But he did not speak. 15 days later, something changed. The once lively ashram had grown quiet, amazed by the silence of their most talkative member. The disciple, however, felt no relief. He went back to the monk and wrote, "I am silent outside, but inside, I am louder than ever. My mind does not stop talking." The monk replied, "Your silence is incomplete. As long as you can hear the noise inside, you are not truly silent. Determined, the disciple made a choice. The next morning, he left the ashram and entered the forest. Days passed. The time for his resolution ended, but he did not return. The disciples feared for his life. They searched for him but found no trace. Perhaps the wild animals took him, they murmured. But the monk remained calm. Or, he said, perhaps he found what he was looking for. 3 months later, he returned. But he was not the same man who had left. Gone was the arrogance. Gone was the need to prove himself. His presence radiated peace. His words, when he spoke, were slow, deliberate, meaningful. The disciples surrounded him, curious. He spoke, but not as before. Every word had weight. Every sentence was smooth and thoughtful. He went to the monk and bowed. "Am I still silent?" he asked. The monk looked into his eyes and said, "Yes. You are more silent than ever." The disciple smiled and said, "In the forest, I heard my own thoughts like never before. My own words echoed back at me. My judgments, my gossip, my arrogance, I saw them all clearly. And then, one day, the voices vanished. I heard the wind, the birds, the water. For the first time, I truly listened." The monk nodded. Most of the world's troubles come from unnecessary talk. We speak to fill the void. We speak to control. We speak to prove ourselves. But true strength comes from silence. The disciple had learned what many never do: silence is not just the absence of speech. It is the presence of awareness. Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." How often do we speak just to be heard? How often do we listen, not just to others, but to ourselves? True silence is not about never speaking. It is about knowing when to speak and when to listen. As you go forward in life, I leave you with this question: are you truly listening? Silence is not weakness. It is power. It gives clarity. It brings wisdom. It allows us to hear what truly matters. Today, take a moment. Be still. Listen, not just to the world, but to yourself. And in that silence, you may just find the answers you have been looking for. If this lesson resonates with you, subscribe to Lotus Insight for more wisdom and teachings that inspire mindful living. Let us continue this journey together.